Hello, everybody. Grab your popcorn, grab a drink of choice, grab Black Phillip if you got him. It is time for the Witches Movie Coven. Yay! Okay, you're going, what is that, you say? Witches Movie Coven is witches talking about witches in movies. And today we are talking about Into the Woods. So we have a few of the characters light through here. My name is Patti Negri. I'm one of your hosts today. And I'll let everybody introduce yourself. Courtney, who are you?
That's me. I'm Courtney. I'm Courtney Buckley, the themes and all the things, ghost bait. Tonight I am embodying many different characters. I have a hood. I have a child behind me that everybody seems to want except me, so I don't know where that fits in. And instead of Milky White, I have Black Phillip. So that's I'm just channeling everyone. I got to tell you, I have not been so excited for a show.
Yay, beautiful. Okay, Jason, going down to my lower right corner.
My name is Doug, and my name is Jason. I'm a Llewellyn author. I travel a lot and do a lot of pagan and witchcraft festivals throughout the United States. And I am less excited tonight than Courtney. So I am in the Richard-Lael mode or role. Yeah, it's going to be a long hour.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much. Let's move on then to Richard-Lael.
Well, you said it. You said it twice, maybe 3 times now. I don't know. I'm kind of like Beetlejuice that way. Someone says, I love the big bad wolf look. Thank you so much. You know, I am known as the Gentleman Psychic. I'm a psychic and a medium. I used to be a psychic and a small, but I gained some weight. So I am inspired by the big bad wolf, and I tell you why. The only reason why I'm sort of dressed like the big bad wolf ish today is because the other day I was walking to the bank and someone says, "Oh, it's Johnny Depp," and I went, "Oh right, Johnny Depp was in that film." So I'm sort of pseudo Johnny Depp as the big bad wolf.
It is beautiful. Yes, indeed. So I've got the red cape. I'm going to do a little bit of a Little Red Riding Hood. With
Hello, little girl.
Yeah. I actually had some really nice furry wolf ears, but I couldn't find them. But if you had them on under your hat, that would have been brilliant.
You know, I do not have them under my hat. I thought I was going to say that I did have them on, but I don't.
Yeah. All right. And then moving on to our expert on all such things, Heather Greene.
No, expert, I don't know, but I am a film historian, witch, and occult journalist, or I'm a journalist that covers the occult and such things. Here's my book. And I am bringing in the medieval look. I got my Renfest dress on to come up to do the princess look. So that is what I am bringing to the table. And I just need to add before we start, I am a massive Broadway show tunes fan. So if I love movies as much as I do, I probably love Broadway just a hair more. So I'm trying to contain my joy right now. I'm going to try to be very calm and not break out into song every 3 minutes. So I'm going to do that for your sake.
No,
I don't know. We might want you to break into song. I too am a Broadway fan of all things. In all honesty, don't tell anybody. Until today, I had not seen the movie at all. I had seen the Broadway play with Bernadette Peters, and one of those people, I've seen the play. I don't need to see the movie, which was crazy because they're very different. But I too, we can break into song, but you don't want to hear me sing. So, okay. So, do you want to? We're excited about this movie or not? Do you want to give us a little history about this film, Heather? Does that work for you right now?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, this was originally a Broadway show. Stephen Sondheim. That's all I need to say. So it came out in 1987. Big hit. Got a bunch of awards, and I have them listed here. I couldn't remember them off the top of my head. Tony Awards for Best Original Score, Best Book of Musical, Best Leading Actress. I saw it on Broadway actually at that time when I was much younger with Bernadette Peters. So, and I loved it ever after. So it Didn't take many minutes, did it? Anyway, so basically it's not unusual that it took this many years for them to produce it. But it came out as a movie in 2014, and it's really important to note the time it came out, because it was released. In many ways, it was ahead of its time as a Broadway show, and the fractured fairy tale work that it's doing, the messages that are embedded in the musical. Musicals kind of march to their own culture, different than movies. So you can't look at them directly, but it came out when a lot of other fractured fairy tale movies were being made. So you have Once Upon a Time, you have you have like 5 different Hansel and Gretel movies coming out. You have a ton of different reimagining of the stories we tell each other. And all of these stories in the early 2010s were fractured in some way. They were reinventions of the stories. They were backstories for the evil characters. They were mishmash stories of different fantasies. Maleficent is another one. We've already talked about that. There was a ton of them that went from about 2011 to 2015. And that was really important for the witch, because now the witch was getting a backstory. She was getting more time. She wasn't just the evil character or the secondary magic for money character in most fairy tales. She was becoming more important. And the one quote from this movie that I love for this period of time, and I'm going to read it. It's in the song, and I'm not going to sing this part, but she says it in the song, The Witch. She says, "I'm not good. I'm not nice. I'm just right. I'm the witch." And then she says, "I'm the hitch. I'm what no one else believes. I'm the witch." And this is the key for this period of time with movies, is that the witch you might not like what she does, but you know why she does it. She may not be right. She may not be good. She may not be bad, but she's right. And so this is the new reimagining that Hollywood was doing for witch characters almost across the board at this period of time. So it's really interesting. It's kind of a period of time where we were re-engaging with these old stories, history and fairy tales, to reimagine what they mean. So that's the history behind it. And we had Into the Woods come out at that time. It was perfectly planned.
So I always feel like I'm listening to a teacher when I hear you talk, Heather, and I mean that in the best way.
I'm so sorry.
No, because I always have questions for you, because you're the expert on this. Do you think that the book Wicked and its success and the Broadway musical success of Wicked was one of the things that allowed this movie to be made?
I wouldn't say no to that. I don't know for sure, but Wicked's, this movie was ahead of its time in the fracturing of fairy tales, the way it did it. Okay. Because during the 80s, if you think back to 1987, that was the beginning of the satanic panic when it came to Hollywood films. Witches were not being portrayed in this way. Fairy tales were not being portrayed in this way. And then Wicked, the books actually came out way earlier than the musical, and I don't know the dates of the books, but he fractured that fairy tale and gave the Wicked Witch a backstory before the musical came out. And then the musical did come out and was hugely successful. So I think that was almost a precursor. So yeah, I think Wicked was part of this movement. Whether it prompted Disney to actually pick up this property and do it, I don't know for sure, but definitely it was part of that movement. For sure. And the movie's coming out.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that.
I'm nervous. But excited but nervous, because musicals, they don't always do very well in movies. So we'll see. Cats.
Thank you. Yes, my Black Phillip is probably winking. As you can see, his eyes go 2 different ways, because he's a very special Black Phillip. I want to thank you guys. We are, even if we don't notice, we are waving, we are looking. Thank you guys for you are jumping in on this. I like your quotes. I like your comments about Disney princesses and everything else that you are. And thank you for noticing my win. Yeah, thank you. I can't believe it. What that is, for those of you going, what is she talking about? I didn't win anything to do with Into the Woods. Yes, this past weekend at the Parapod Festival, which is a paranormal convention and film festival and podcasters award. I did not win for my podcast, but I did win for Best TV Psychic Medium, which I did not think I had a chance in hell. because I was up against Chip Coffey. He's the old established guy, had more, shows than the gods on his own. And then Tyler Henry, who's the new kid coming up. I'm like, I'm going to be lost in the middle, but yay. So Witchcraft works.
The question is, Patti, were you wearing Patti's power panties?
I was wearing Patti's power panties, and I must say they were a very big hit. I had them strung across the front of my table where I had my books and things like that on a clothesline. So people would walk by and not notice, or somebody said, "Oh, I thought they were flags or hankies," and then you look closer and they're thongs and boxers, and yes, they were. And yes, when I won, I'm going to give. I should have said it while I was on stage, but I'm going to give full credit to Patti's power panties. I was wearing the deep blue power strength. So yeah, there you go. Yeah. And Black Phillip, I have to say before we get into this, who's been so envious with his crooked eyes because he sees online Jason's everywhere and Courtney's everywhere and Heather's everywhere and Richard-Lael and my Beckford stayed home in Hollywood. Well, he came with me to Santa Clarita and he modeled Patti's power panties. He did on the table. I had him hanging so it looked like he wasn't on the table at all. It looked like he was magic because he is hanging over the table wearing a nice thong, Patti's power panties.
That's definitely his style. I can see it.
He's sexy. So anyway, but thank you guys for the nice comments. Everybody's been really good. So so thank you. All right. So that's all we have that's new. Let's start talking about the movie. Should we? Who wants to go first?
Courtney.
Me. I do me.
Okay.
So, first of all, actually, can I tell you guys a quick little story having nothing to do with Into the Woods, but sort of like my week in review? Since everybody loves this little butthole so much.
Doll.
Not a doll. I, after last week's show, was sitting at my desk streaming, because you guys know I stream on Twitch. I stream horror games. So I was streaming some games on Twitch, and I did this. When I ended my stream, you can raid another channel, which means you bring your viewers to another channel, and then your viewers get to see that person playing the video games. So I did that, and then I got up somehow without remembering to stop my stream. I got up from my desk and I went to bed, and then I went to work. And then halfway through my work day, I was getting messages, "Did you know you're still streaming?" So when the channel that I rated stopped streaming, it went back to just my camera on Not a Doll and my empty room and just a blank screen. And Not a Doll streamed by itself for several hours. People were watching to see what it was going to do. And it was like this little down here in the corner, little box. Okay, if it has its own stream, it's Not a Doll. I just saw that. But they were watching it. And so when I came home at lunch, I was going to turn it off. And everyone was like, "No, keep it on." So I moved Not a Doll into the camera like this. And Not a Doll streamed while I was at work. And Not a Doll got more viewers than I did.
That shows it's haunted.
Yeah.
Yes, as the comment just did. Yes.
Yeah, it's haunting me. But yeah, so Into the Woods. Okay, let's get into the Woods, because this musical holds a special place in my heart. It is the very first musical that I was ever in middle school. I played the Prince's Steward. I had like one line. It was great. But I loved even then the character of the witch so much that the witch's like lament or whatever it is, her entrance there that she does, I learned that, and I knew it all through high school, all through college. I used it as my monologue for auditions, and I went to Salem State for theater, and I got all these parts because I was so into that monologue. Even now with my Swiss cheese brain, I can't remember to stop my stream, but I can remember the witch's monologue. Love it. We only did the first act, so until I saw the movie, I didn't know there was more to the story. And then I watched the movie and I was devastated for the first time. That was when it first came out. But then I took my son to see it. Salem State recently, within the last couple of years, did a production of Into the Woods. So we got to sit front row and watch the actual theater production of it, and they did both acts. And I was like sobbing. Just, it was so beautiful, and I love the songs, and I love everything about it. And I've literally, since we started talking about doing this song, I've had an intrusive thought that keeps popping up. Like, I'm at work and it's like, I really hate to ask it, but do you have a basket? Like every 5 minutes. I was in the bathroom earlier before coming on stream, and I was sitting there going, I really hate to ask it, but do you have a basket? But yeah, I've been listening to the soundtrack, not like I needed an excuse, but nonstop for a week, and I love it. And Jason, I don't want to hear any words.
I didn't say anything.
Not yet.
I was just typing.
Not yet.
That's how I get the jabbed. Oh, about my review of the film. You don't want to hear those words.
Right, those words. I also don't want to hear words about dolls. Because I see you commenting in there.
It's true. It's true.
I do see someone's commenting about Meryl's first scene being amazing. Meryl Streep. How was she not? How was she?
An amazing cast.
Yeah, seriously though, the cast, like, really, so many good. Every time, I love Anna Kendrick, and I'll talk the whole time. 1 hour is not enough to talk about.
The only thing that I can say about the casting, though, I have to say I was really disappointed that they cast children as Jack and Little Red Riding Hood, because I saw it via PBS. I didn't actually get to go to Broadway, but I saw it on PBS, and then I saw it. I think it was PSU or some university did a version of it, and it's sort of the songs that they sing. It's clearly they're not really supposed to be children. When Jack sings about her big breasts, the giant's big breasts, you know he's not a kid. And then when the wolf sings to Little Red Riding Hood, "Hello, little girl," it's kind of creepy that they're actually kids. It's kind of funny, but
well, and that's part of what fairy tales are. There are a lot of them. The original ones are explorations of growing up, the transition from childhood to adulthood, and I think Stephen Sondheim, in almost all the stories, is manipulating that concept. And so that was one of the things. And I was just reading some reviews as comparisons, just to kind of get that basis. Is that was. They tried to play that down in the music in the movie, because they didn't want that piece to come out, because in the musical that's supposed to be the subtext of it. It most certainly is. The wolf is actually naked, is in a lot of productions on purpose. It's very much a creeper scene, and it's very much about Little Red Riding Hood's transition and awareness of her sexuality and her growing. So she's not supposed to be 10. She's supposed to be like 14 or 15, I think, is what the musical has her as. But they didn't want to be too creepy in the movie, so they kind of toned it down. But you can't tone it down when you listen to the words of the song and the whole scene. And when she talks about, and he drew me close and he swallowed me whole, the whole hard part, I'm like, yeah, they can't tone that down. So, yeah, that was an issue.
It didn't bother me, though. I know I do see that Haley just noticed. I think she does work at Disney. The wolf was a huge debate at work because he was the creeper wolf, right?
He's a creeper.
But if he was a creeper wolf, he's a creeper wolf.
And someone made the point that in the original musical, Prince Charming and the wolf are played by the same character on purpose, because Prince Charming is also supposed to be a creeper. And if you at the end of and they downplayed that significantly in the movie. He's kind of slimy, but he's not as creepy as he was in the play. And he's supposed to be played by the same character in the play, typically.
I think the prince was just as creepy as the wolf.
He was a little bit of a scumbag.
Yeah. I mean, the wolf, he's a wolf. You know what you're getting. The prince is the prince. That's a whole different.
Listen, as someone who played the prince's steward, I feel like I'm the expert on this. Absolutely a creeper. And so was the kid that played him in high school. So in middle school for me.
Wait, Courtney, were you the steward that actually kills Jack's mom?
No, I only had one line and I just trailed behind. I forget whose prince's steward I was, honestly, but
okay.
I had like one line, and like I said, like they pared down a lot when I did it. And
Do you remember that one line, Courtney?
No, nope, I don't. But I remember all the lines from the Witch's dialogue.
That's awesome.
Not even my own part, but I remember it.
That's funny. All right. Well, then why don't we? That is good. Thank you. Move down to Richard-Lael since he was picked next.
Hello. The film I thought was okay. I had forgotten. I watched it and I did watch it at the theater. Because I think it was the same year that my friends in the ballet company were party to this PSU, Pittsburgh State University or whatever, where they were, many of them, my vocal coach she played the baker's wife. My friend Nick played the wolf and the prince as it's supposed to be. And I remember I went and saw it. And so when it came out in the theater, we were all so excited. And then I remember the conversation about, that was kind of creepy having Depp sing that to a 10-year-old girl and the little kid singing about the bosoms of the giant. It's a little creepy, but overall I remember everyone enjoyed it. Not as much as actually watching it live, or in my case, watching it on PBS and then drooling. I was a weird gay kid, so I loved it. I loved it on PBS with Bernadette Peters.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Can I just hop in for one quick second? Because while I do fully, I agree with everything. I just want to point out that to me, Jack as a kid singing about bosoms, as the mother of a 13-year-old who's been singing about bosoms since he was like 3, not so weird because
I agree with you. I that stood out. I'm not a mother, but I have bosoms and I'm a woman. So I did not take that as sexual. I just thought of that mothering thing. So
I think the portion of Jack's story is about him also maturing into adulthood, and it's not as sexualized as the one with the wolf, but which is definitely a creeper situation, a forced approach to that, whereas he's more of exploring and trying to get away from his mom. He's going up high. Now I can see things I never saw before. When he sings "There's Giants in the Sky," it's about him getting away from his mom, about escaping to finding new people. It's a totally different exploration of the same concept of him maturing. So it's not as sexualized as the other one. What was that?
Sing it.
No, there are giants. Big, tall, terrible. No, so I think it's the same thing, but it's not as sexualized as the wolf. So you don't, he only says bosoms one time, really, but it's there. The subtext is definitely there that he is maturing into adulthood, and that's part of the whole Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. I got distracted by the quote. This love my Prince logo. And I'm like, Prince Charming. No. We're talking about the musician Prince. Yes, I have a Prince logo on my sorry.
That is the sound it makes when doves cry.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. I got distracted by that because Prince. Okay. Anyway, so yes, my point is that the story that Jack has is similar, but it's less sexualized.
Good, thank you. Okay, thank you. Richard-Lael, was that all?
Yeah, I mean, that's really my only outside of the fact that it's Disney, but
we're moving away from Disney after this. We are moving away from Disney.
This was a Stephen Sondheim musical.
But the Stephen Sondheim musical aspect of it, as far as stage to film translation, I've seen worse. I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it. And I do love the fact that in the film you actually get to see the giants more than just a leg that stomps through. You know, I that was kind of interesting. And that's you go to somebody else.
All right, Jason.
Oh
Well,
boy.
There we go.
So I saw this movie when it came out in 2014 at our house. My wife calls the Pitch Perfect movies the trilogy. Like some people are reverent towards Lord of the Rings or Star Wars. She is reverent towards Pitch Perfect because she really loves Anna Kendrick. And this cast is amazing. I think Chris Pine is the greatest of the Chris's. And I don't even think it's up for debate. Emily Blunt is fabulous in many things. Sadly, James Corden is in this movie. So I am going to be very contrary. When I saw this movie in the theater, I was bored. And when I rewatched it yesterday, I was again bored. I don't think the songs stick in your brain like I wanted them to stick in my brain. The only scenes I really enjoyed were the scenes with the princess, because I thought that they were kind of fun and campy. I get the Meryl Streep thing. I just cannot buy Emily Blunt being married to James Corden for a second. Takes me right out of the whole thing. Like, it's just not realistic. It's just, yeah, that's a fantasy right there. I just can't deal with it. Yeah, and then there's the tonal change at the end of the movie, you know, when you get to that last act. And I wanted it to just wrap up with everybody being happy. I would have been fine with that. I don't need life lessons. Let's let everybody like skip through the woods or out of the woods and be thrilled. And then the giant shows up and stuff, and it just takes a turn, and the movie's too long. You know, it just drags and drags and drags. Yeah, I don't like this movie, and I like musicals. It's not about hating musicals, and I should love this. I love deconstructions of fairy tales, but there's just something about this one that leaves me really cold. And I'm really sorry, Courtney, and I still hope that we can be friends. And Heather, we can be friends. And
I genuinely, that was not gentle in any way, shape, or form. I feel like you just ripped my childhood, my soul to just shreds. Okay, the songs don't stick it.
Okay,
yeah.
I beg to differ.
Courtney, I need to jump in here and just say, Jason, if they cut it at Act 1, there would be no point in doing this musical. Stephen Sondheim's entire point was to smash the whole fairy tale thing and say, this is you got to happily ever after. That's what you wanted, but did you really want it? And then that's the second act. Like, maybe you didn't want it. So the whole musical is pointless, which I guess is your point. It's pointless. But I completely disagree. I think the music sticks in my head perpetually. Like,
guys, nice is different than good.
Yeah,
Jason, we learned that from watching this movie.
Yeah,
nice is different than
it's
good.
different than good.
I learned to take a nap. You know, that's what I learned.
Guys, I have to go. I can't. No, we gotta.
So this is the kind of movie that I thought, like, when my wife came home yesterday while I was watching it, she'd be like, "Oh, Jason, I'm so excited you're watching Into the Woods." She just rolled her eyes, like because she also knows that it's boring.
No.
There's no
It's not.
in my heart.
Boring.
Every
Did
time
you guys
say that?
And yes, I'm always representing the ghost. That's
I don't think it was boring per se.
Boring.
But I watched it in 2014. I watched it now for the show. Would I watch it again only if I was doing another show on that show? I didn't enjoy it really in 2014. I really don't. I love the musical. Like, on stage, I love it. I can't get enough. I love it. The film is okay. It's just okay.
If, like, flipping through channels was still a thing that you could do in the age of streaming, and I saw the princes at the waterfall doing their song,
That's awesome.
I would stop there. and watch that for 4 minutes, and then I would move on with my night. But I would watch those 4 minutes because those 4 minutes are pretty delightful.
I have to say there is something to like watching it. So I saw the whole thing in the theater finally within the last couple of years after just knowing the first act. And there is something to watching the first act. The first act is over. Everyone's got their happily ever after, but you have a whole act left. And like, I wish that I could have gone to see it at the theater without having had any experience.
More than anything.
I wish cow was full of milk.
I wish more than the moon.
I wish that things would wrap up. You know, that's what I.
No, how could you guys? Did you look at the movie? Let alone beautiful music,
It was
interesting characters,
Visually,
the colors. Did you see the colors of the forest, of everything? That was, I think, done very specifically on purpose. How just the richness of everything. I just was enthralled in layers of it. And what's wrong with James Corden? I mean, really, she would have been nothing. He did fine. He did good. Meryl Streep was great. Everybody was funny when they needed to be funny.
Meryl Streep was great. But Bernadette Peters will always have my heart.
Well, yeah.
Well, that's Bernadette Peters.
That's Bernadette Peters. Yeah, and I saw her on Broadway, and that was amazing. But
I am as queer as a $3 bill, and because of that film, because of that stage production, I had the biggest crush on Bernadette Peters. I used to sketch her because I was so in love with her as the witch.
That's awesome.
One of my first crushes as a child was Bernadette Peters because I saw Annie, and she steals, of course, every scene in Annie. Yeah, Bernadette Peters is great. Maybe the stage version is better. Maybe I would have been more enthralled had I seen that before. Does the stage version second act, is it 30 minutes like it is in the movie? Because in the movie it's very, very short.
It's the same. Usually their second acts are a little bit shorter than the first act. So it's a full thing. But the one criticism I have of the movie, and they did do alterations, and I think it's important to acknowledge for people who love the musical that the musical is never going to be the same as the movie. Yeah. And if they tried to do it exactly the same, you wind up with a terrible movie because these are two different ways of storytelling. You can't do that. And I'm not going to get into the reasons why. And I will argue that up and down. And I think that this movie, they did a pretty good job of translating the story for film. Broadway is a broad stroke of a storytelling. You don't get the up close. Film is up close. There's a lot of things you have to consider. I think they did a good thing. I mean, I love the song Ever After. It was taken out, but that is the end of Act One type of big musical and doesn't really translate into movie form unless you're going to have an intermission. So there's a lot of things that go on. So the second act, my criticism is I think that the power between the wife and the husband, the baker's wife, was not strong enough. It didn't play through as well. So by the time the end of the movie came, when she decided to go off and kiss the prince, it didn't seem realistic. Like, why would she do that? They weren't fighting enough at that point. There wasn't enough fear. There wasn't intensity in the second act that you have in the play. And I think that was my only criticism, because I'm like, I'm not buying that this girl is going to go off and kiss a prince just because he's a prince. There had to be more fighting between her and the husband. That's the reason she does it in the musical. She's really irritated at this good for nothing husband. And that didn't come through in the movie as much. It also, the fear of the giant was not intense enough in the movie for me to feel that, like, oh my goodness, I better kiss him because, and that's his ploy. He says, we might just die, kiss me. You know, it's kind of one of those kind of ploys that he uses. It wasn't intense enough. So there was a little bit of, the intensity in the movie was not there. So I think you'll find that, Jason, if you go watch it in the stage, you'll find a little bit of a different intensity in the play that was not in the movie. It was toned down. But, you know, plays are also events. So when you go to a play, it's a huge event for you. So it's a whole different feeling than when you sit in the couch and watch a movie or you go to the theater even. So I think that was my only complaint. Other than that, I thought it was super fun, and I'd watch it over, and I've watched it over the years over and over, because I will even watch Cats, the movie. Like, I'm just saying, that's how much I love musicals, and that movie is horrible. So I will watch any musical movie ever.
I liked Cats, but I've never seen the film because I was afraid that it would be terrible.
It is terrible.
It's so bad.
But I watch it because I love singing along to the music. So
I mean, I saw Cats twice on stage, and I liked.
Oh yeah,
I liked it on stage.
Yeah.
So but I was afraid of the movie.
Cats I saw on stage in 1980, the first year it was there on Broadway, and I saw Into the Woods on Broadway too. I grew up in New York City, so I got to see a lot of this. Cats on stage was fantastic. I can sing every song in that musical. Love it.
And didn't it run for like 100 years?
Yeah, it was like the longest running one. I think it almost beat out Chorus Line at one point.
Yeah.
But
to be fair, you can sing all of the music from Cats because it's the same song for an hour and a half.
It is not. It is not. No. Let's just not go there. But
we're gonna sing.
No, the point is that Cats was poorly made. They didn't translate it well. This one, Into the Woods, they did a really pretty good job. It's not perfect, but I think overall they did a very good job of translating the story for the film and making it into something that was gonna. They have to sell tickets in the end.
See, I think too. Like, I am one of those people who, if there's a movie that I want to see, I feel like I have to see it at the theater. Like, I will never stop going to the movie theater because I believe in cinema magic, like being able to see it on the big screen the way that it was meant to be seen with the sound and everything else. And I feel like a lot of times when you watch something streaming, you miss parts of that. Mm-hmm. But the same thing is to be said about like theater magic, watching real humans do it live with all these set changes and the costume changes and the everything else. It adds to that big time. And I know that we all know that, right? But like, but for this one especially, it's very different. But it's different in a good way, both ways, I think.
Mm-hmm. And it's just you and me and all those wonderful people out there in the dark. All right, Bill, I'm ready for my close-up.
Scary.
Oh, that's another movie, Richard-Lael.
We have had a couple comments from John Maxwell because it looks like he dressed or his costume or something, or I don't know if he dressed the sets or dressed the people, and so he's a little worried. He's worried about Wicked. So I don't know the translation. So we'll just see. We will see. Yeah. We'll have to do that when it comes out as well. Now, I just want to go back to Heather. I did not have a problem with her making out with the prince. I didn't think. I mean, I just thought it was like, it's not that they fought all the time. It's just she was a bored housewife and he was a hottie young dude. You know, and the woods do it to you. The woods. It's all like blame it on the woods. You know,
I lived in the woods, so I understand completely what the woods can do. As a teenager, I would run around naked and howl at the moon, and I thought I was so, big and bad like the wolf. 15 years old running around naked in the woods. But you do blame it on the woods. The woods messes with your mind in the most wonderful way.
Can I just relate that to witch movies in general? Is that the woods have their own character in witchcraft movies throughout our Hollywood's history, but specifically starting about 2000s, you start to get this. They start to really dig in on that premise. The woods become their own character almost, just like Richard-Lael just said. It's you're going into the woods, and the woods symbolize a lot of things in different movies. They even symbolize as early as 1940s with Macbeth. They symbolize wild. They symbolize magic. They symbolize femininity in many cases, whereas masculinity is always symbolized structure and buildings. So you have this in Hollywood. So the woods are something that's dangerous, enticing. It's scary, but also exciting, just like Little Red Riding Hood sings. Courtney, I saw Courtney. You want to sing it, Courtney?
Yes, yes.
Sing it, Courtney. Sing it, Courtney.
And though scary is exciting, nice is different than good.
There you go.
Yay.
So the wolf is both scary and he's exciting to her, and that's the kind of concept of the woods. There's magic there. There's spirits there. There's witches there. There's unknown. It makes you do things that are crazy, and that's kind of the concept of what's going on with this. The woods, anything's possible. You can get your wish. In fact, I think in this movie, all of the magic happens in the wild woods. And then if you think about witch movies traditionally that are based in some kind of folklore, it's always that the witch, in fact, the movie The Witch, the woods are where it all happens.
I have a very sweet story to tell you about the woods. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to sound like a lunatic, and I'm going to tell you anyway because I love this story. It's one of my favorite personal stories about me, and I'm going to tell you. So when I was 5, my parents moved into the woods, and I had started kindergarten in another place, and then I started first grade in this place where my parents lived in the woods. And my mother was diligent. She would pick me up every day at 3:00. And it was only a mile away. It was a mile from town. And so my mother had gotten distracted, and I thought, well, I guess I know the way. It's just down that road. So I left school and I started walking. And that was when, this is how I knew I was gay, because in my mind, as I got not even a quarter of a mile away, I started hearing lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, lions and tigers and bears. And I was so terrified that I was going to be devoured. I was going to be lost. And right at the moment when I didn't feel like I could handle any more, whether it was a spirit guide or whether it was a ghost or whether it was a deity, it doesn't matter. Whether it was even in my own head, it doesn't matter. I heard this voice that said to me, hold my hand, don't look to the left or the right, and I'll guide you all the way home. So I, at 6 years old, walked home with my hand in the air like this, and I get up to the top of the hill where my house was. And my mother, realizing the time, she's just running out the door to grab me, and she sees me walking down the hill with my hand in the air. She says, honey, I'm sorry I'm late, but why are you walking like this? And then I related the story, and she cried, and she thought that it was, other things. But for me, it was just this very sweet story that whatever it was, whatever energy force that was, it helped me to not be afraid. I walked in that lonely country road into the woods, and in my mind, it was the Black Forest, but it was only a mile from town, and a town of 1,000 people maybe, but it was a mile from town, and I was 6, and I was terrified to go into the woods, but it sort of transformed me. So there is into the woods something very special in that for me.
I love that. See, we're witches. We belong in the woods.
Exactly. We're witches. And you could blame everything on the woods.
And one day, my life's goal is to go back and live in the woods and build a house made entirely of sweets.
I am there.
That's a good goal.
Can you build it with an in-law apartment, and I will move in?
Yeah. I would just sit there like eating sweets, getting diabetic, getting fat, chocolate.
I mean, the story of my life anyway, yeah.
I mean, I don't eat sweets because I'm allergic to them, but hello, little girl.
Yeah. I would see that house and I would run immediately. Run deeper into the woods, run back to town, run somewhere else. Out.
I like Colin's right. He feels safe in the woods. I've got very mixed. Part of me, because I'm very elemental in my craft and in my witchcraft, I feel home in the woods. But there's still something very spooky. They're very mysterious, like what you were saying, Heather, about even the feminine to it. So it's a pull in, push away, love hate thing.
I think the female connection to it, the feminine connection to it, is largely, we could get into feminist theory here, is largely the fear of wild femininity, and I talk about that in my book in various locations, and so that connection to the wild, untamed nature. And I think there's a fear, and we can get into patriarchy and all that stuff, but we can leave that for another time. I talk about that in my book and how that's connected. But growing up, on a side note, just a personal, so I grew up in urban New York City. And so the woods, there were no woods. And if there were trees, there were 5 of them. And mostly they were dangerous. There was glass, broken glass, and all kinds of stuff. So the woods for me were never, I'm much more comfortable in the 42nd Street in Times Square or in the middle of a city than I am in the woods, because I was not used to it. So I go out to the woods and I'm like, whoa, there's nobody here, there's no noise, what is that squeaking, what is that hooting? So that's a totally different perspective thing.
I grew up on a dead end street, and in my backyard it was like the perfect sledding hill with a big rock, and then behind that was what we used to call the woods. And I would go outside, I would say, I'm gonna go get lost in the woods, or I'm gonna go play in the woods. And to me as a kid, I would literally go get lost in the woods, and I would find a little path, and I would weave my way out, and I would pick up rocks and find salamanders and all the things, and I'd be out there forever and ever. And then I just thought it was like this vast expanse of like, I can't believe my parents just let me like wander around in the forest. And there was probably like 7 trees, and I just believed it was the woods, and that they couldn't see me, even though you can see my house from all vantage points. But it was magic. It was magic even then. Before I knew I was a witch, I was the witch of the woods.
When you're a kid and there's a ravine near your house or 5 trees, you feel like there could be an entire like family of Sasquatches living there.
Yep.
Along with bears and everything else. It doesn't take a lot.
Yeah, in my elementary school, I went to Stephen Foster Elementary School in Lakewood, California, suburban Los Angeles, and we had this thing called the forest, and it was in the middle of the quad where most people would have the cement quad where you're playing basketball, but it was dirt, and there was probably a dozen big trees, and it was called the forest. I mean, you could see everything from everywhere, but we turned it exactly like you did, Courtney. It was. Right now, I'm lucky. I live in Hollywood. I live in the hills. I live 5 minutes from Hollywood and Vine. I live middle urban, but I have a really big, wild, almost a third of an acre backyard. People go into my backyard and get scared. There's no Bigfoots. We had a mountain lion for a while, but he's passed on. But I mean,
maybe it's because your house is made of sweets, my dear.
Maybe it is, but I keep eating them.
Well, and I think that that's part of the premise of this movie. Once again, is that we have what we know about going into all these fairy tales are coming together because they all talk about into the woods. They all talk about going into the woods to grandmother's house, or to get to the. Whatever the case may be, that's part of the fairy tale. But then the woods messes things up, because once you're in there, you don't know what's going to be there. And that's the premise. And I think that you gets back to that one scene where she kisses the prince. And in the musical, it's more than just a kiss. Well, let's just point that out. In the movie, they suggest it's just a kiss. But it leads to all these other things.
And
the possibilities are endless.
Endless.
And I want to tell you, I'm not going to kiss and tell, but several years ago, I went back to visit my family in the Midwest, and I happened to have met some fellows on that dating app, which is going to remain nameless, and there are endless possibilities in the woods. That's all I'll say.
Talk about magic. Look at you.
I want to make one comment.
Magic in me.
I want to make one comment to True Gooner, who said they're not being rude, and that's fine. And what is the point of all this? Is we're talking about is what? Yeah, this is the point of all this. This is what you do. This is it. this is what week after week we are witches talking about witch movies. We usually do one movie, sometimes we do two, and that's it. This is the point. So take it or leave
Sometimes
it,
you got to
but we
talk about the woods.
Sometimes
You know,
you gotta talk about the woods.
tonight's the woods. We're going
Tonight's
into the
woods.
woods.
Next week, who is to say what it's going to be? Who is to say? Again, and we do want you guys as bears, portals, elementals. Oh my, there you go. Thank you, Tabitha. Because you don't know, and there's magic in the woods besides those scary trees and Sasquatch. So again, we do want you guys, as somebody asked about a movie earlier, but I didn't catch it in time. Want to know what you want us to talk about. And we are coming up with some really nice lists. I don't know if we're going to keep them a secret or we're going to post them in nut, but everybody's been turning in movies we want to watch. And there's some really good upcoming movies include Rosemary's Baby, Carrie, Renfield, and The Wicker Man for Beltane. So
the Renfield one's going to be like a huge departure for us because we're all going to have to go into a theater.
Yes.
Oh,
And
it's worth it.
With
It's
the Black
worth it.
Phillips.
It's
I'm very
worth
excited.
it. It's worth it. I was at USC last night when we had the director and we had the composer, and it was yeah. And you have it's a watching a big theater, you know, like a Marvel film or something. It's Kill Bill meets everything. Rattlesnakes in the world. Well, I don't know that there's a lot of rattlesnakes in the woods actually, because doesn't it get too cold for them? They're hanging out where I live in more deserty.
Well, they're everywhere.
Oh, we have
When I was a
rattlesnakes
kid-
here.
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I was
They're
a Boy
everywhere
Scout-
then. Be afraid.
We have rattlesnakes here in Long Island, but they're politicians.
Well,
No, well, all right. Well, before we go, this is good. We have really good movies coming up, and we are stepping away from Disney movies. We are stepping away from Disney movies to make some people very happy and some people not, and that's what we do. So, like we said, we have Rosemary's Baby. We have all sorts of. We're going back into witch movies. Not that these aren't, but everybody. Before we have just a couple minutes left, anybody have anything to say? Anything they have coming up? Anything they want to talk about, announce, pronounce? Courtney, you are ready to speak.
I have a lot of fun stuff happening. So I am taking a trip in about a week, which is a big deal for me because I don't usually go a lot of places. But I'm driving out to Michigan, and my friend Sarah, who does the Paranormal XL podcast, is celebrating her 4-year anniversary of the podcast. So we are going on a haunted road trip, and it's growing by the day. So far we have 3 locations set up, one of which is the place that I have wanted to investigate since I was 12 years old, which is the Villisca Axe Murder House. So keep an eye on scaredandalone.com. Keep an eye on At the Themes. Check all that out. And because there's going to be a lot of stuff coming at you guys from there. Also, if you're on Twitch and you like horror video games, you can find me at the Themes on Twitch. I usually stream after here. I take a little break, about 15 minutes, and then I will be bringing Not a Doll Jason, and I will be bringing Black Phillip. So they're both going to come investigating with me. But I'm going to be playing some horror games tonight too. So if you guys want to catch up with me there, you can.
Octopus. Yay, octopus. I'm reading this. So thank you very much, Courtney. Who wants to go next? Richard-Lael?
I am going to be at SatanCon in the end of the month, and that's the major thing I've got. But you can also catch me on University Magicus, and you can catch me. Oh goodness, that's the major thing. University Magicus, I teach there. I've got a few other things coming up that are but they'll be later. You can find me everywhere. The gentlemanpsychic.com. Also, Richard-Lael Lillard, anywhere that is. But also, there's a faker on YouTube who is now under me, and they said that I have cancer, which clearly I don't. I just don't have hair. I don't have cancer. I'm a Capricorn, not a Cancer.
You are too cute. All right, thank you. Now watch out for the fakes of any of us. Okay. Jason.
This weekend, I'm going to be in Seattle, Washington at an event called the Spring Mysteries, where they try to recreate the ancient mysteries of Eleusis So it has like a Greek gods theme. I'm very excited about that. And then the 26th through the 30th of April, I will be at the Florida Pagan Gathering, which is surprisingly enough in the state of Florida. When I was in Massachusetts a few weeks ago, Richard-Lael, I had a mother and her child who's like 15 come up to me, and the kid's like, I want to go to Satan Con. And the mother was like terrified. And I was like, no, kid, you got to go to Satan Con. It's going to be great. And I talked the mother down about, the evils of Satan Con. It was like, there are no evils of Satan Con.
Good.
So, yeah.
Where is Satan Con? Someone wants to know.
It's in Boston, April, I think the 27th of April. I don't know. And 27th.
Look it up. Look it up.
Satan knows.
Satan knows.
Okay, thank you. Heather.
Hey, before I tell you what I'm doing, is someone asked where Florida Pagan Gathering is this year. Where are they hosting it, Jason? What city?
Oh, I don't
middle of
know.
Florida.
It's at a campground. I'm going to share the link.
It's usually in the middle of Florida. Like the center of it is where it's been in the past. So anyway, so I am not going to be doing much traveling, but I will be, I'm on the board for Mystic South, which is a big pagan conference, witchy conference. It happens in July in Atlanta. And so I am deep in working on that. I also just got the okay I will be doing a haunted doll talk there and bringing some dolls with me. May ask for some photos of yours, Patti, so I can show them. Show her off. And maybe yours too, Richard-Lael and Courtney.
Courtney.
I don't have any. I don't have any.
I am on the board, so we're loving getting ready for that big conference. We're going to expect a big crowd, so I hope you all can come out for that. Mystic South. I also am working on the Bewitched Home stuff, which my partner does the work on that. And so if you need witchy gear for your home, we have that. And also just working with all of I'm super busy working with all my amazing witchy authors, reading their books and their works and helping them birth their own books. I call myself a book midwife. So and so that's it right now. You can find me at heathergreene.net. You can find out what I'm doing. I'm also working. I'm a journalist, so I'm always working on articles. Oh, thank you. Holding up the phone.
We are holding up. This is one of her. This is the most amazing cell phone. Most amazing cell phone holder that you would ever see. It sits there. It's wood. It comes in part and pieces. It's amazing.
It's great for travel.
This is one of Heather's beautiful products.
Yeah. And so, that's a side thing, like one of my 7 side things. But you can go to heathergreene.net. You can find out what I'm doing, the articles that I'm writing. My last one got published by the Washington Post. So they get picked up by big sites. So it's really, really fun work that I do, and I love it. So follow me there. And that's it.
Perfect. Thank you. Anya, I'm Patti Negri. I have coming up Spirits in the Sky. It's a Paracon and a fundraiser. It's going to be in Broadhead, Wisconsin on April 22nd. All sorts of people are going to this short little thing. It's going to be great if you're in that area. April 26th through 30th, I'm going to be doing this intimate little haunted weekend in Bisbee, Arizona at a haunted little hotel called the Copper Queen. It's a getaway. It's small. It's a little tiny hotel. So there's a few of us doing investigations and seances and all sorts of magical and witchy things. And yes, this one's coming with me, whether he knows it or not. Yes. Then I'm going right to Pacific Coast Paracon beginning of June. So like me, follow me, pattinegri.com. Coming to Bisbee. Yay, Raven. I'm so glad. Raven Wolf. Yay, coming. It's going to be so fun. So pattinegri.com. You can get to all my social media. Please like us, follow us, because that's just what you have to do in this day and age. My book, Old World Magic for the Modern World, you can get on Amazon or my website. And make sure you go to mysterycontrol.com because you can buy fabulous blankies like she is wearing, which is Movie Coven. You can buy our t-shirts. You could buy Bro Witch, and you can now buy Patty's Power Panties. Yes,
Patti,
indeed.
I have to say something real quick because I went on your section of that, and there's so many things that I have to order now, like that the sweatshirt, the Rainbow Witch sweatshirt. Like I need like 7 of them, one for every day of the week.
You do,
and then I need power panty to match each one.
You do. And I was wearing power panties when I won an award I really didn't think I was going to win. So put on those power panties. We have them for love and passion and health and wealth. And they combine. I've been telling people for years, the color of your panties and the intent in your panties, the most important part of your wardrobe. So on top of that, I added sigils, magical sigils. I work with a lot of sigils and runes. I added the words itself and the color. Everyone comes with a little simple little spell that you do. So you guys can all be superheroes from the panties on up. Boys, girls, every style. So yeah, mysterycontrol.com. We can all be twins.
There's some sharp boxer briefs.
Very
nice.
So anyway, but before we go, because we're going long and we're not supposed to go long, back into the woods. Wands up, wands down. Into the Woods movie. Wands up, wands up. I don't know where my wand is. But
Is that down,
up.
Jason?
This is down.
I think
This is
it's
the
up.
first down I have ever given on the show. Usually there's at least a tilt. This is all wands down.
He's straight down. I'm wands up. So we've got two up, one halfway, and one down. And we want you guys to vote too. Wands up, wands down. Yes, it makes me want to see the live musical again too. It's a beautiful show, I must say.
The live musical is up here.
The live musical. So check in with us, follow us, come back next week, Wednesdays at 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on all sorts of places. If you like us, tell your friends. If you don't like us, don't tell your friends, tell us what you want more. And yes, this is the whole purpose of everything that we do. We're deep. So we have one more thing to do and we're 1 minute over. What do witches do? 1, 2, 3.